Hello, this is Amy, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the Sunday, June 21st issue of the Democrat and Chronicle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Cover story: USA 250, New York's Role in Our History. Relics tell the tale of our rights. An exclusive look at New York political artifacts across 250 years of American history. Emily Barnes' New York State Team. On the third floor of the New York State Museum building in Albany, one recent morning, a treasure trove of American relics, usually kept hidden from public view, fills a seemingly never-ending room. Up here, the most darkened space is quiet and warm, and you can smell the age of the rarely seen pieces in every inhale. It is an escape from the shiny white marble walls and the liveliness of the visitors exploring surrounding levels, where these items may one day end up on display. Labeled brown and blue-gray cardboard boxes line rows of metal shelving, and ornate historic furniture nearly brushing the low ceiling is stacked on hardier metal racks toward the middle of the room. At the end of one of the aisles, a battered green football helmet and tools used in the 1971 Attica prison riot are positioned neatly on the floor. Several large oxidized ice harvesting tools lie closer to the door. A few more items, chairs with ties to former New York governors, stand out. In many ways, these carefully preserved artifacts of New York's political and social history hold the secret story of the state's crucial role in shaping American ideals and rights over the past 250 years. The impact of past New York governors. A simplistic wooden chair stained dark with lighter brown swirls throughout. Soft golden yellow details on the chair back and a comma-shaped platform extending from its left side probably wouldn't catch your eye as you walked by. The chair's history might just grip you, though. Originally belonging to former Governor DeWitt Clinton, the writing desk is in great condition for being centuries old, as the main sign of use can only be seen around the edges of where it opens up. Clinton was New York's sixth governor and is known as the father of the Erie Canal. DeWitt Clinton would probably be the one that you would have to give credit to having the biggest impact on New York State for his champion of the construction of the Erie Canal, says New York State Museum senior historian and curator of political and military history, Aaron Noble. Without that construction of the canal, you don't have the rise of New York as the Empire State. And then you could really argue that it opens the West for settlement, so that has a huge impact on the nation. Other chairs in the space have intricate hand-painted designs, such as the blue bows on a set belonging to former Governor Joseph Gates. Some are woven, as is a high chair with ties to former Governor Thomas Dewey. And furniture associated with a name more familiar, Roosevelt, can be found in the form of a sturdy, well-worn wooden chair belonging to former Governor Theodore Roosevelt's sister. When it was donated, the story was that Teddy Roosevelt actually sat in this chair, Noble said, about the chair that sat in Anne Roosevelt Cowell's house. Family lore, but given the location of it, there's a fairly good chance that he actually did sit in it. The Roosevelts, Dewey, and the state's first and longest-serving governor, George Clinton, are all prominent figures in New York's history. According to Noble, Theodore Roosevelt, who went on to become the 26th President of the United States, was a dynamic figure. He was that kind of prototypical kind of American at the turn of the 20th century, Noble said. He was very loud and boisterous by all accounts, very charismatic. But he really was able to capture the attention of the voters, both in New York and across the country. Theodore Roosevelt, the state's 36th governor, also helped reshape the way government functions from environmental preservation to civil service reform. His cousin and the 48th governor of New York, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was at the helm of the country through the Great Depression and Second World War as the 32nd U.S. president. FDR's leadership and legislation, such as Social Security, had both an immediate impact on national politics but also left a lasting legacy, Noble said. While Dewey, who served as the state's 51st governor in the 1940s, signed New York's human rights law, making the Empire State the first to codify anti-discrimination laws. And George Clinton was very adept at leadership, Noble says, but was resented due to his upbringing. He often gets forgotten in terms of New York's Revolutionary history, but he was governor throughout the Revolutionary War, Noble added. He didn't come from that kind of landed elite that we think of as our founding fathers. He was much more the champion of the common man. New York has led the way in civil workers' rights. 8 floors up from the room with the chairs, you're greeted with a similar quietness, but a chill in the air that grows the longer you're there. The public is welcome here and encouraged to bring a sweater, as the temperature is kept low to keep the documents the space houses in the best condition. At the end of a long table in a room partially surrounded by glass windows, in the farthest corner of the state Archives Research Room, a copy of the New York State Constitution, published in 1779, sits open to the first page. Red tinged splotches line the edges of the pages. Its disintegrating brown leather cover slid into a plastic covering to help keep it intact. It signifies the foundation of our state and is a physical representation of New Yorkers' rights, several of which have had significant impact not only on the state, but on the nation. The Dewey-signed Ives-Quinn Act, which was voted through in 1945 and named after its sponsors, Assemblyman Irving M. Ives and Senator Elmer F. Quinn, was the first in the nation to ban discrimination in the workplace based on race, color, creed, and national origin. It also created a state agency for enforcement. Another civil rights action rooted in the Empire State includes its Civil Rights Act. According to the New York Transit Museum, a century before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white passenger on a segregated city bus in Alabama, 24-year-old schoolteacher Elizabeth Jennings Graham ignored orders to get off a streetcar in Manhattan, which led to her physical removal. Graham won her lawsuit against the driver, conductor, and the Third Avenue Railway after the incident, and the state banned discrimination on public transportation in the city 20 years later, in 1873. New York also enacted a right of privacy statute in 1903, after the Franklin Mills Company's ad campaign, including lithographic prints of a young Abigail Roberson, led to a lawsuit for damages and injunctive relief. While the Robersons didn't win, public interest kept the action front of mind and led to one of the state's civil rights laws. And the state's workers' compensation law, the first in the nation, was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1917, after initially being found unconstitutional by the State Court of Appeals a year after it was first enacted in 1910. A less than 10-minute walk from the entrance of the museum, large paintings of every governor the state has ever had at its helm hang dignified along the warmly lit Hall of Governors inside the New York State Capitol. Just below some of the portraits are wooden cases filled with items of significance. FDR's gubernatorial, inaugural, fountain pen, and gavel, the state's civil service law document, and proof of the state's Freedom of Information law. They are all physical reminders of the work of the leaders who helped form the state of New York, while also serving as encouragement for future ones who will continue crafting and working to institute laws they hope will better the state in the same way as those who came before them. Emily Barnes covers state government for the USA Today Network, New York, with a focus on how policy and laws impact New Yorkers' taxes, communities, and jobs. Follow her on Instagram or X at @BYEmilyBarnes. Get in touch at ebarnes@usatodayco.com. 250 years of New York State government and American rights. How we gained exclusive access to rarely seen archives and artifacts. Emily Barnes, New York State Team. Emily Barnes, the Albany State House reporter for the USA Today Network in New York, has been digging into the role that governors and state lawmakers in Albany played in shaping the nation. Her reporting gained exclusive access to state government archives and artifacts rarely seen by the public, as well as top historians guarding the legacy of a state at the heart of 250 years of American ideals and rights. We asked her about what she uncovered and how those secrets of the past could inform what's ahead for New York and the nation. What did you find out about New York's history and past leadership that would potentially surprise New Yorkers today? Ulysses S. Grant, who was the 18th President of the United States, but never part of New York state leadership, lay in state inside the state capitol after his death in Saratoga County in 1885, before his body was transported to Washington, D.C. According to a state historian, it's unusual for people, even governors, to lay in state in the state capitol. A plaque commemorating the historic moment can be found on the first floor of the State House. National perceptions of New York today are focused primarily on New York City and its impact on the country. How does that compare to prior eras in terms of the entire state's place in driving the nation forward? Two historic elements come to mind: the Erie Canal and the Underground Railroad. Without either of those, New York wouldn't have become what it is today. The Erie Canal, which was heavily championed by the 6th New York Governor, DeWitt Clinton, built up cities across the state from Buffalo to Albany and made New York an industrial and economic powerhouse. As for the Underground Railroad, it helped New York lead the way in civil rights protections, as New York was the first in the nation to ban discrimination in the workplace based on race, color, creed, and national origin. What are some of the similarities and differences between the political leaders of New York's past and those leading the state and nation today? If a political leader didn't have connections to the elite in the earlier days of New York's history, they were often seen as less than. For example, the state's first and longest-serving governor, George Clinton, was said to be resented because he represented the common man. While some of that still lingers, there are many more representatives who pride themselves on coming from more meager backgrounds. Case in point, Governor Kathy Hochul came from a working-class family in the Buffalo area, and she often cites her upbringing as key to fueling her political career and policies. What tips do you have for getting the most out of a visit to the New York State Museum, State Archives, and Capitol Building? If you're planning to visit the State Archives Research Room on the 11th floor of the New York State Museum building, make sure you schedule an appointment and know what you'd like to look at ahead of time. As for the State Capitol building, exploring all 3 staircases, the Senate Assembly and Million Dollar Staircase are a must. A visit to the Legislative Office Building, which you can get to through the bottom floor of the Capitol, should be on your list as well because of how stark the design differences between the two are. And don't forget to take a walk through the Empire State Plaza, which was designed in part by former New York Governor Nelson A. Rockefeller. Inspiration: Irondequoit student, others honored. Youth Awards recognize community contributions. Laura Nichols, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. County officials presented the 2026 Young Citizen of the Year, Willie W. Lightfoot Youth Advocate of the Year, and Gary Mervis Youth Team Achievement Awards on Thursday, April 23rd. Adriana Casano of Irondequoit received the Young Citizen of the Year Award. The Seneca Park Zoo Urban Ecology Program Team, the Gary Mervis Team Award, and Salvatore Gerbino of Chili, the Willie W. Lightfoot Youth Advocate of the Year Award. Monroe County Executive Adam Bello and members of the county legislature participated in the Monroe County Legislative Youth Awards ceremony at Monroe Community College. For more than 30 years, the county legislature and the Rochester Monroe County Youth Bureau have worked together to identify and honor exceptional youth and youth advocates for their contributions to our community, according to a county news release. This year, 79 youths, 13 adults, and 3 teams were nominated. Winners are Adriana, the Young Citizen of the Year. Adriana founded and leads Iroquois Middle School's Best Buddies chapter, advocating for opportunities and support for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, according to the Monroe County news release. Through Best Buddies, Adriana has helped students both with and without disabilities build connections and friendships. She was nominated by District 16 Legislator Dave Long. Seneca Park Zoo Urban Ecology Program Team, the Gary Mervis Team Award. Team members who promote sustainability and conservation are Naomi Cliff, Zachary Crawford, Tamira Lovett, Fiona McGoldrick, Judah Norquist, Giovanni Perez, Angel Quinones Morales, Ta Ray, and zoo program coordinators Kimberly Bracken and Laura Gainsler. They were nominated by District 26 Legislator Yaversha Roman, President of the County Legislature. The team demonstrates strong leadership, communication, and scientific skills in their work to strengthen Western New York's environment, the news release says. The zoo's website says the program is designed to introduce youth to careers in environmental science and ecology, while also empowering them to be ambassadors and role models. The award is named for the founder of Camp Good Days and Special Times, Inc., which supports children facing cancer or other challenges. He also has worked on anti-violence outreach. Gerbino, the Willie W. Lightfoot Youth Advocate of the Year Award. Gerbino organized Rochester's first polar plunge and has expanded it over 25 years, raising more than $5 million for Special Olympics. He was nominated by District 20 Legislator Robert J. Colby. The award is named for the late county legislator Willie Walker Lightfoot. He also served as president of Action for a Better Community and co-founded the Southwest Area Neighborhood Association. Lightfoot was known for his passion for justice and fairness, particularly for those denied opportunity by racism and structural inequality, the news release said. The annual Monroe County Legislative Youth Awards are a great way to honor our local youth for their outstanding accomplishments. The news release quoted Bello as saying, "I am proud to join my partners in government as we recognize the youth who have stepped up in meaningful ways to better their community and the adults that advocate for them." Remarkable Rochesterians. Irene Gosson, 1919 to 2016. A widely recognized advocate for the environment and a town and county official, Irene Gosson, a native of Wisconsin, attended first the University of Wisconsin and then the Eastman School of Music, after which she worked as a singer and also a teacher of music in the Warsaw, Wyoming County, and the Brighton school districts. In 1966, she began a largely successful effort to preserve the wetlands around Irondequoit Creek in Penfield. After an unsuccessful run in 1969, she was elected Penfield Town Supervisor in 1971 and went on to serve 10 years. She was the first Democrat to hold the post and the first woman to lead a town in Monroe County. She later served 6 years in the Monroe County Legislature. Memories. 30 years ago, Camp Beechwood closed, but traces of Girl Scouts camp remain in the park. Alan Morrell, special to the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. Camp Beechwood was a Girl Scouts camp on the shores of Lake Ontario near Sodus in Wayne County. Thousands of girls spent parts of their summers at Beechwood for nearly 7 decades. Smaller groups even went there during the winter months for shorter stays. The place sometimes was spelled Beechwood. For this column, we're going with the more commonly used Beechwood. All one word. The Girl Scouts organization, which was founded in Rochester in 1918, acquired land that became Camp Beechwood in 1929. Beechwood was an enormous complex of perhaps 150 acres. The number varies over the years, that included wooded knolls, meadows, and hills, and fields, and at least at the beginning, a large beach. Girls camped in tents during the summer months and inside a central lodge when it was colder. The camp had an infirmary and dining hall, a trading post, and an administrative center, as well as Adirondack lean-tos. About 125 scouts at a time went to Beechwood for summer sessions, typically for 2 weeks. The camp usually held 3 or 4 sessions annually, with hiking, swimming, canoeing, crafts, and sports, and more. During the World War II years, scouts at Beechwood helped harvest a local cherry crop and worked on a victory food crop in nearby potato patches. Stories from the 50s mentioned that dedication of a new camping unit at Beechwood and the Girl Scouts' acquisition of a campsite near Stony Brook Park in the Dansville area. That site became Camp Pinewood. Soon, scouts were split into age groups for camping, and the younger ones heading to Beechwood and the older ones to Pinewood. There were, of course, still the wintertime jaunts, too. In February 1971, a Girl Scouts troop was marooned by snow at Beechwood and rescued by snowmobilers. The girls kept busy, had fun, and weren't worried, a troop leader reported. They decided if we could get men back from the moon, they were safe, she said in a news story. By the 1980s, Beechwood was hosting camps for children from alcoholic families and for teenage mothers and their babies, as well as for the scouts. 6th grade boys and girls camped there in the 1990s. Then came word in 1996 that Camp Beechwood was closing. Girl Scout officials said they couldn't afford to keep all camps open. A shortage of adult leaders also was cited. Activists got involved to save the property from developers. Much of the camp's 4,000-foot shoreline had vanished over the years, and the rest of the camp remained serene. People gathered at Beechwood to say goodbye in September 1996. 2 years later, news came that the New York State was buying the property as part of an environmental/parks project. The site is now Beechwood State Park, managed by the town of Sodus. Alan Morrell is a Rochester-based freelance writer. A longer version of this story was originally published in September 2018 as part of our Whatever Happened To series about Rochester haunts of yesteryear. Community. From guns to gardens, Western New York man turns old weapons into new tools. Kayla Kane, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. The small piece of steel Mark Stradley works with transforms slowly at first. He sticks the sawed-off chunk of a rifle barrel into a piping hot furnace and waits for the dark metal to blaze orange with heat. With a few strikes of a hammer, it starts to take a new shape. Stradley and others across the U.S. are turning guns into garden tools, using the blacksmithing project to show communities impacted by gun violence that healing is possible. People have used guns at times to settle personal disputes, instill mass terror, and end someone else's life, or their own. It has a ripple effect in our communities, Stradley said, of the destruction. It's not just the victims and their families that are impacted forever, but we do think of the perpetrator and their family. That's loss as well. June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. Rochester has seen recent success in its long battle against guns, with fewer shootings, 43, and gun homicides, 1, reported so far this year. Still, community leaders gathered downtown June 5th to reaffirm their commitment toward a future without any gunfire in our city. Stradley got to work under a tent on Parcel 5, pausing at times to chat with onlookers or give them a chance to strike the destroyed weapons. It obviously can be very emotional for some, he said. The Buffalo Public School counselor started this chapter of Raw Tools just over 5 years ago after losing 2 students to gun violence in back-to-back school years. With federal approval, the nonprofit accepts donations of unwanted firearms, destroys them on the spot, and then fashions the fragments into trowels and mattocks for homeowners and community gardens across western New York. It's taking something that brought harm into our community and turning it into something that can be life-giving, Stradley said. Guns to Garden Tools project rooted in healing, peace. In recent years, the project has earned a state violence prevention grant and has partnered with 2 Buffalo area law enforcement agencies to destroy guns surrendered to police. Stradley said the group does not condemn safe and legal gun ownership, but exists to be a space of healing for those who have been negatively impacted by guns. The nonprofit, which has roots in Colorado Springs, took inspiration from a Bible verse that talks about a time when humans will turn away from conflict and transform their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. We don't have that many swords, but we got a whole lot of guns, Stradley said. So we're turning the guns into garden tools, and our hope and our vision is that one day our streets will have more garden tools than firearms. To learn more or donate a firearm, visit www.rawtools.org. America at 250. Festival explores American freedom. Events focus on Harlem abolition music history. Laura Nichols, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. America at 250, The Journey to Freedom, is the topic of a 3-day festival being presented by the Rochester Oratorio Society. All events are free and open to the public. The festival opens at 6:15 p.m. on June 24th with 2 pivotal figures in freedom. A panel discussion led by Brighton town historian Mary Jo Lanphier at the Brighton Public Library, 2300 Elmwood Ave. The discussion will focus on abolitionists Austin Stewart and William Clow Bloss. Stewart, an escaped slave, was the first African American to establish a business in Rochester and wrote 22 Years a Slave and 40 Years a Free Man. He assisted escaped slaves and helped formerly enslaved people establish themselves economically. Bloss helped his friend Frederick Douglass to move escaped slaves toward freedom along the Underground Railroad and sheltered many at his house on East Avenue. He is buried in Brighton. Harlem Renaissance Revisited. A vocal recital featuring Exia Ivy with Kevin Nietzsche will begin at 7 p.m. June 25th at the Rochester Academy of Medicine, 1441 East Ave. Ivy is a soprano who teaches in the Rochester City School District, and Nietzsche is a member of the piano faculty at Nazareth University, a vocal coach at SUNY Geneseo, and music director at the Baptist Temple in Brighton. America at 250, The Journey to Freedom, will celebrate American choral traditions at 4 p.m. June 28th at Christ Clarion Church, 415 Thornell Road, Pittsford. The festival community chorus will sing such classics as Wilhowski's Battle Hymn of the Republic, Resonance, which the Rochester Oratorio Society website describes as its choir for hire, will perform Brent Michael David's We Are on Native Land, and a new work by Daryl Smith using School of the Arts student Bronwyn Capp's poem Freedom, which won the Writers and Books Teen Poetry Contest this year. Volunteers are being sought for the festival community chorus, which begins rehearsals on June 22nd. Sign up at rossings.org/volunteer-your-voice for an unforgettable choral event. Arts Connections in the Society's concert series that explores the intersections of classical music with diverse traditions. Arts, Jurassic Art. RIT graduate donates dinosaur model to Ithaca's Museum of the Earth. Ithaca Journal. A 19-foot-long dinosaur has arrived at the Museum of the Earth. Andrew Bovenzi of Mendon is a recent graduate of the Rochester Institute of Technology who worked to earn his undergraduate degree in studio arts this May. For his senior project, he made a life-size dinosaur model, which he recently donated to the Ithaca Museum, according to a statement from museum officials. The 19-foot-long model is a hadrosaur, a group of plant-eating dinosaurs commonly referred to as duck-billed dinosaurs. That includes names familiar to dinosaur fans, such as Edmontosaurus and Parasaurolophus. Bovenzi, a graduate of Honeoye Falls Lima High School, chose to base his model on Velafrons, a hadrosaur known only from a single specimen found in Mexico in the early 2000s. It lived during the late Cretaceous period, 100.5 to 66 million years ago. "It's my favorite dinosaur," he said in a statement. "I've had a years-long passion for the animal and its locality." How a model Velafrons is made. The model is made of foam and joint compound over a wood and chicken wire frame. Bovenzi gave particular attention to the skin, basing its pebbly texture on hadrosaur fossils that preserve skin impressions, the statement said. The striking colors are conjectural. Bovenzi started the project in July 2025, following a trip to the Smithsonian, the Academy of Natural Science, and the Edelman Fossil Museum in New Jersey. After 10 months of work, he presented the model as a part of his capstone show at RIT. He also displayed 57 miniature dinosaurs as part of the exhibition. The miniatures are viewable on his website, waxosaurusmakers.squarespace.com. Bovenzi said he made the model for two very specific reasons he feels are missing in many museums: what these animals looked like in life and how large these animals were compared to you, the viewer. Finding its way to the Museum of the Earth. It was the combination of art and science that made the model attractive to the Museum of the Earth. Andrew contacted us and asked if we would be interested in having the model after he displayed it in his senior show, said Warren Allman, director of the Paleontological Research Institute, which operates the museum, in the statement. "When we saw it in person, we knew it would be a really wonderful addition to our exhibits. many of which focus on the interconnection of art and paleontology. It's an impressive feat of paleo art. What is next for the artist? Bavenzi is enrolled in an accelerated program at RIT this fall to get a master's degree in teaching, as some of the most influential people in my life are teachers, he wrote in an email. Bavenzi hopes to go on to a career in both making and teaching art. I have two plans for my postgraduate career, he said in the statement. One is to continue making these kinds of pieces for museums around the world, inspiring kids to change the way they look at these animals. Another is as an art teacher, using my experience as a child who used art to learn new things to inspire other kids to explore their passion. Bavenzi's model is currently being installed in the Museum of the Earth and will be fully on display later this month. Rochester Artists' painting honors America's past and present. Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. A local artist has created a painting that honors the U.S. sesquicentennial. Unalienable Rights, a water-based painting, captures moments and symbols from 1776 to the present day, including the Statue of Liberty, ships used during peace and wartime, and various versions of the American flag. The painting already has been displayed at Irondequoit Town Hall and is currently being displayed at the Canandaigua Yacht Club, 3524 County Road 16 through June 24th. In July, it will be displayed in the lobby of Genesee Country Village and Museum's John L. Whale Gallery. Painting has always been my way of preserving moments and emotions, Blair, a Rochester-based painter and realtor, said in a news release. With this painting, I wanted to honor the courage, struggles, and unity of the people who define America, past and present. Who we are. After decades, a son's devotion to the Knicks is rewarded. Remarkable Rochester, Jim Memmott. Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. In a July 1995 column, I proposed that the New York Knicks turn their coaching duties over to my son Ben and his wife Alicia. There was a vacancy, Pat Riley having stepped down, and my sense was that the team needed a fresh start. A couple of serious fans like Ben and Alicia would steady the ship and lead the team to a championship they hadn't won since 1973. I pointed out that Ben, especially, had put in his time with the team. He even had a shirt from the car wash owned by Knicks star Charles Oakley, who retired in 2004. Admittedly, my column was self-serving. I figured if Ben and Alicia were in charge, I would get courtside seats for the Knicks game. The celebrity fans would want to be seen with me, I wrote, and what with me being the coach's father/father-in-law. As is often the case, my column was ignored, and the Knicks did not take my recommendation. They subsequently hired a string of 16 head coaches not related to me. They also went on to fail in their championship quest until this season's coach, Mike Brown, guided them to victory, clinching the series with a win over the San Antonio Spurs on June 13th. During the years-long wait for a championship, Alicia has scaled back her interest in the Knicks, wisely for sure. How much suffering is anyone supposed to endure? But Ben has remained loyal. How loyal? This year, he watched 81 of the team's 82 regular season games, missing one when he was on vacation and couldn't access the broadcast. Before that, year after year, it was the same thing. Hope, disappointment, hope, disappointment. Indeed, there was so much disappointment that I wonder if I should have staged an intervention. Ben traces his Knicks connection back to the mid to late 70s, when he was a kid in Canton, St. Lawrence County. The Knicks were about the only team that appeared regularly on television in the North Country, losing more than they won. He loved them. Perhaps then, and for sure later, I could have suggested other options. Have you thought about the Lakers, the Celtics? I could have asked. We never had that conversation. Busy with my own life, I may have failed in my duties as a father. But I seem to have failed upward. The Knicks have won at long last. And they did it the hard way, coming from behind, never quitting. My stepdaughter, Emily Morgan, says that watching the Knicks during the championship series was much like watching the Buffalo Bills. Things can look bad, but then, like Josh Allen for the Bills, Jalen Brunson, the Knicks' focused and magical leader, has had enough. He takes charge. Knicks win. So pop the corks. After all those years, the Knicks' time has come. Ben knew best. From his home in Geneseo, Livingston County, retired senior editor Jim Bemet writes Remarkable Rochester about who we were, who we are. He can be reached at jmemmet@gannett.com or write Box 274, Geneseo, New York, 14454. Remarkable Rochesterian. Let's add the name of this talented and prolific artist whom we wrote about last week to the list of remarkable Rochesterians. Harry Bliss, born 1964. The Henrietta native, illustrator, and cartoonist has been creating New Yorker magazine covers since 1997, and he has illustrated and or authored several children's books, beginning with A Fine, Fine School. His and entertainer Steve Martin's collaboration on cartoons led to their first book, A Wealth of Pigeons. It was followed by a second book, and a third is on the way. A graduate of the former Sperry High School in Henrietta, he attended art school in Philadelphia and has created the Cornish CCS Residency Fellowships for cartoonists that is held in New Hampshire, where he lives. He releases a daily cartoon, Bliss, and his graphic memoir, You Can Never Die, was published in 2025. Obituaries. I'm not able to read the whole listing for each individual, just their name, age, and city or town. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Neville Abrams, 93, Irondequoit. Teresa A. Carver, East Rochester. Anthony G. Sikoria, 57, Rochester/Caledonia. Louis P. Surancion, 86, Rochester. Michael B. DeRue, 81, Gates. Kevin P. DeVoist, 65, Webster. Rosalie DeFranco, 78, Rochester. Dr. Mojtaba Dini, 81, Rochester. Virginia Ginny H. Garrell, 86, Webster. Deborah C. Hopow, 76, Gates. Gail E. Icovangello. Linda Louise Hewers, 86, Pittsford. Grazia Labra, 92, Rochester. Clara Lundgren Borelli, 99, Rochester. Catherine Mary Mahaney, 98, Rochester. Marianne Marasco, Fairport. Martha Massey Howden. Zygmunt W. McCusick. Sister Benita Nicholas, SSJ, 91. Roseanne S. Porcelli, Fiola, 76, Ocean Island Beach, North Carolina. Anne Powlis, 79, Rochester. Daniel F. Reardon, Webster. Jose A. Rosario, 84. Max Schabel, Jr. Bernie Sohn, 69, Fairport. Catherine Kitty Stadler, 97, Boca Raton, Florida. Rita Stadler, 99, Webster. Howard Keith Stott, Rush. David F. Schwartz, 86, Rochester. Elaine P. Teddy, Pupatelli, 79, Gates. Gerald F. Tommen, 90, Webster. Paul J. Ushold, Dude, 71, Rochester. Joe Wass, 79 Spencerport. Stephen T. Welsh. Diane Bub Warren, 68 Webster. Leona Zaremski, 98 Irondequoit. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Sunday, June 21st issue of the Democrat and Chronicle. Your reader has been Amy. Thank you for listening.